because if this was going to be our home, we needed some way to give back to the community, to become known entities, real members.
Huh?
Instead of being
I'm drinking
that
your old
terrorists,
hurricane.
which is something
Only hurricane.
Your old
I
one.
could instead be a movie theater terrorist.
I said your old one from earlier.
And so we started up an art council which allowed us to
I
rent
took
the
a couple of myself.
We found and
Still
refurbished the original 1940s popcorn machine, and I rallied the
One down there.
community to
How
help
much
us
is left?
clean up the movie theater, our community, which is something I had started to say before. And I remember saying it over and over and over again. And as I'd say it, I'd focus on the way it sounds. Community. And then we said, stop here.
I'll eat a donut. Just want some
And
sweet.
so we reopened the theater. The morning
Some
of
chocolate milk.
Videos too.
Chocolate milk and
having a
donut.
cup of coffee in the local
Might as well
coffee
eat some
slash
spaghetti
baby
with
slash tackle slash beer shop. And as I'm sipping my coffee, I'm
I
imagining
ate my
the
share,
thunderous
but
applause that we're obviously going to receive after the movie that night. Standing ovation, cowboy hats being thrown right into the air. When my neighbor at the counter, he asks me a question. He's an older cowboy, and his breath was hot with coffee, and his handlebar mustache was glistening with sticky bun. And he leans in and he asks, "You're not trying to bring that Boise, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, artsy-fartsy social justice warrior crap here, are you?" And I'm actually ready for this question because Emily and I, we know our audience. And I respond confidently, "No, we're actually showing an indie western." And he
Oh, you're
asked,
yawning. You must
"John
want some
Wayne?"
spaghettios.
And I said, "No, Robert Pattinson, the Twilight
I'm
guy."
tired to eat it.
And so blank stare, he says, "You should show
Too
me."
tired to go to sleep.
That night, it's opening night, I'm too nervous to sit in the theater with everyone, and so I
Cheese,
stood
any
outside of
good?
the auditorium. And the theater was packed that night. Some people came on dates, some people
She's
came
just so
alone.
bad.
Everybody had popcorn.
She's just.
And as I stood, I thought about how some people even
If there's
took
mold
selfies
on
of
it, you just
themselves
cut off the
with
mold
the
and it's
tickets
so
underneath
good.
the glow of the marquee,
Yeah, but it's
which was
running.
now on illuminating Main Street. And so
And
the movie started,
check it out.
and I lean into the curtains because even if I can't watch it, I at least want to listen to it and enjoy it. And I hear the words from the movie. There's a gang bang social tonight. And so I'm grasping the curtains, and I should say at this point, it's an important part of the story that I actually didn't have a chance to watch the movie before showing it.
Hope I'm not
So by
catching
the
a cold
time
again.
Robert Pattinson was masturbating a quarter of the way through the film, I was laying horizontally on the ground, carpeting pressed against my cheek, and I could actually hear audible groans coming from the theater at this point, but that just may have been the sound of Robert Pattinson achieving completion. So after the movie, needless to say, I raced into the lobby and I tried as much as I could not to make eye contact with anyone as they shuffled out of the theater, their eyes wide, their cowboy hats pressed tightly against their chest. And I really believe if I just don't move, if I stand perfectly still, maybe nobody will be able to see me. Kind of like that scene with the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Not a super auspicious start. A question we got a lot after that was, are you going to show new movies? These were new movies, just indie movies that nobody had heard of. We couldn't show big budget films, but because we couldn't afford to, but that's not why we had opened the theater in the first place. That's not what we wanted to do. We really believe if we show good movies, we can earn the community's trust, our community's trust, even if we were showing subtitled documentaries about whale hunting in the Faroe Islands. If you build it, they will come, became our mantra. But no one came. Night after night, I'd flip the switch on in the theater, and it would reveal maybe one, maybe two people in the auditorium. And so, we relented. We showed John Wayne. And everybody came. They really loved John Wayne. And I remember getting swept up in the excitement, and I decided that this time I'll sit in the theater with everyone. We showed the movie The Quiet Man, which if you haven't seen, it's a classic story. Boy moves back to Ireland. Boy meets girl. Boy meets girl's brother. Boy fights girl's brother. And in the end, everyone is happy and friends for life. It's a movie I've seen many times, and I've enjoyed it every time I've seen it. But watching it that night, in that town, in that theater, the
I just zoned out.
screen
and
framed
got
by the
tired.
silhouettes of cowboy hats. Watching John Wayne physically drag and shove Maureen O'Hara the 5 miles back from the train station,
Stop on stupid.
it felt different. And I'm a fan of John Ford,
Oh yeah,
and I
that's
actually
what
love
it wasn't
John
listening
Wayne,
to
and
him.
it is just a movie. But it has this
Stop on
idealized
Stone
past
is great.
that masks misogyny,
I spoil your
deeply
message.
conservative values, and it felt just like the town itself.
Start tomorrow sometime.
And they came, and they laughed, and they saw themselves reflected back. But I didn't. Even after showing John Wayne, Star Wars, and other fan
Did you
favorites,
try one of
things
those?
didn't really improve for
No,
the theater.
I-
And
They're
a lot of
so
my conversations
rich.
with Emily at the time turned to the question of, should we even be doing something that nobody wants? And it didn't help that the theater was impossible in the 1950s. And I joked that we can maybe buy our one customer one big coat. And so most nights I spent by myself in the theater, drawing cartoons bundled up in my big coat, the sound from the movie playing to an empty auditorium. And on one of these lonely nights, this older cowboy walks in, someone we had affectionately nicknamed Racist
You
Dave.
want a caramel?
Racist Dave
Yeah.
walks in and he asks for his nightly popcorn, and as
Over
I'm buttering his
too
popcorn, he
sweet,
sits down and
honestly.
he told me a little bit about the history of the place that I didn't know. For example, underneath the movie theater had once been a gambling hall, and across the street above the
Like it
bar had
doesn't
been a
taste
brothel
like
until
salty
like the
caramel.
1960s. Again, cowboy
No.
country.
Just like caramel.
And as I hand Racist Dave back his
You mean I
popcorn,
taste the salt,
he says almost to himself, lots of history in this place.
but
And that word
it's not what I expected.
stayed with me. History. It was easy to feel nostalgic in the theater, right? The Art Deco marquee outside, it evoked simpler times. And I wondered, maybe that's what brought Emily and me there in the first place. This sense of nostalgia, this desire for something simpler. And it also occurred to me that maybe Racist Dave and I had more in common than I had previously thought, apart from the casual racism. But I now know that nothing is ever that simple. In 2019, our daughter Elika was born, and Emily and I made the tough decision to leave our small town and move back to the big city. As much as we had tried to become members of the community, sometimes something just isn't a fit, like a vegetarian joining a local hunting club, which I also have a funny story about. On our last trips into town, Emily continued to linger outside of the theater, but the theater felt different. It felt smaller now. And for a while, the community actually, they kept the marquee on, but the smell of popcorn was gone. After we closed the theater for good, we learned that back in the old days when film was still shown on print, reels were smuggled in from this wealthy town over the mountain, and that allowed our town to watch movies without licensing them, so for free. In its entire history, the theater had never been viable, which was fitting and also kind of romantic. And looking back, I think that maybe that's what it takes to be an artist, to be a dreamer and a risk taker and a little naive. But you have to try something to see if it works. And if it doesn't, well, you get out of Dodge and you try again. Thank you.
Baby's got a bluebird on.
David Matavian!
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Fantastic! If you don't know, The Moth is an independent arts organisation supported by members and generous donations. And if you want to find out more about workshops in schools, other events and workspaces, please visit themoth.org. Let's have one more round of applause for our storytellers.
Navid Madavian is a cartoonist and writer whose work has appeared in The New Yorker since 2018. He's the author and illustrator of the graphic memoir, This Country, Searching for Home in Very Rural America. Since leaving his tiny house in Idaho behind, Navid and his family have now settled outside of London, and he continues to poke fun at the things he sees slightly askew. Coming up, more from our live main stage show at the Union Chapel in London, where the Moth Radio Hour continues. news. The Moth is supported by BetterHelp, committed to helping clients with issues ranging from
Every
relationship
time I
challenges
think of
and
something to
goal
say,
setting,
it's like
grief,
something I
and
should
depression.
say.
Learn more at betterhelp.com/.
Well, so bad. You can say anything.
Well, just I was gonna say, like, I'll find somebody to buy some steps tomorrow. If we
Doom
need it.
scrolling.
Or something like that.
I'm Aisha Roscoe, host of Weekend
There's a
Edition
couple other
Sunday,
things I was
where
gonna
if
say
you
too,
want
but
to
then I
know
was
what's
like,
going
oh,
on in the
wait a
world
minute,
of
better
life
not.
matters,
Should
all you
never
have to
gave a
do
shit
is give
before.
your
Why
phone a
start
listen.
now?
I don't
Up
know,
your
probably
ears.
because I'm
We've
sober.
got the news, but we've also got
What?
curiosity,
I don't know.
joy, and surprise.
Because I
Tune
forgot.
in for Weekend
I
Edition
forget
from
usually.
NPR
That's
News.
everything.
Sunday morning at 7 on Wisconsin Public Radio.
When you're online, visit WPR.org. You'll find news headlines from WPR and NPR and feature
Not
stories
that I
about
would do
arts,
something like
culture,
that.
music, and politics.
It's a thought.
Explore our live audio streams, links to program information, or check
I know
out
of
upcoming
people who
events
do.
in your area. WPR.org. We're not just on your radio.
This is the Moth Radio Hour from PRX. I'm Meg Bowles. You're listening to a main stage event we produced in London at the historic Union Chapel. Here's your host, Tiff Stevenson.
I said I'm in my 40s. I'm a very sexy age now. I'm the kind of age where if I turn down an alcoholic drink at the bar, people are like, "Oh, is she on antibiotics?" Because they want to know. Sometimes I order a cranberry juice just for an air of sexual mystery. Let's keep it fresh and exciting. I'll tell you how you can tell that you're middle-aged when you start buying your clothes in places that also sell food. Yeah. That would be my fashion all in, you know. I like it because if I can double down on a pair of shorts and some chicken wings, I'm barbecue ready. That's me. I'm good to go. Just those little signs. So, I asked our final storyteller tonight the same question that I've asked all the others. Tell me about a time you went all in for fashion. And she said, when I was 21 years old, I went to Jamaica for the first time to discover my roots and heritage. We were going to a party on the beach, and I decided that my outfit should be maybe the shortest booty shorts with the word Jamaica emblazoned across them, and a top with Jamaica emblazoned
Did
across it.
your
In case
daughter
anyone had forgotten
get to go
whereabouts in the
to
world
New
we
York?
were.
Because there's a class, there's like
I
three
hopped
classes.
into the
Yeah.
taxi to head to
Really?
the party, and when we got 5 minutes away, they made him
Because I know
turn
my
back and
niece
take
and
me home.
nephews got to go.
Because I lost all confidence in it. So please,
Yep.
welcome our final storyteller
That
for
was
this
so,
evening.
well,
to
I guess
the
as a
stage.
kid, we were going on a bus.
You ready?
Fuck, man. Long ass ride.
I thought
Catherine,
they
I just
flew.
realised that I've not written your surname, so
Really?
I know what it is, because Catherine joined.
That would be a long way.
Please welcome her.
They had like one of them Coach buses or whatever.
Really nice. That would still be a long ride.
So the first time I went swimming, I was 5 years old. I was bouncing in my car seat with this untamable excitement, and it felt like freedom. So we pulled up in the car park, and I made my way to this leisure centre, taking in its bright lights and these loud voices and this sharp tang of chlorine. And it's a leisure centre, right, in rural East Midlands. But to me, it felt like Disneyland. And I kind of got in there, and I got changed in the cubicle, and I made my way to the edge of the pool, taking extra care to walk, not run. Even though every single part of me, I didn't just want to run, I wanted to fly. And when I got in that water for the first time, that's exactly what it felt like. And I swam whenever and wherever I could. Lakes, the swimming lessons, I learned to snorkel and then later to scuba dive because that wasn't enough. I just loved it. But then fast forward 10 years, and that childhood jubilation has become locked in a prison of my teenage body. So puberty is happening, and the thought of stripping down, much like the Jamaican booty shorts, in a swimsuit every week was a form of fresh hell. And it wasn't just these changes to my body, but I also relaxed my hair at that time to make it really straight, because that was the cool thing to do. And of course, relaxer is destroyed the moment water goes anywhere near it. But if I didn't relax my hair, then not only would I be ridiculed at school, but my swimming cap wouldn't fit over my afro. So I was sort of in a lose-lose situation, and I became really disillusioned and miserable with it all. I looked around and I thought, there's no one here who looks like me. I don't fit here. So I stopped. Swimming's not for me. In January 2020, just as the earliest strains of coronavirus were being reported at the bottom of our weekly news cycle, I unexpectedly lost my uncle, Delroy. And it was so unexpected that when I got that news, all I could say was, what? Because we'd just been together at Christmas, which was 10 days earlier, and we'd had the annual Christmas quiz. And
managing at the budget hotel.
Not
managing, it was prior to managing.
And he kind of helmed our family since we'd lost our grandfather.
And I watched the front desk.
It just made no sense to me that he was no longer there. And I fell apart. I think my family fell apart. And then weeks later, we're in a global pandemic. The world fell apart. And I developed this sort of
younger than me
thing that was just pushing down on my chest. And at every moment, I felt like I was looking behind, looking over my shoulder, just waiting for this next bad thing to happen, because something bad was happening, I was sure of it. But then I would try and reassure myself, I'm a positive person.
Held up
No,
at
you're
knife
fine.
point.
You're absolutely fine, because the worst possible thing
got robbed.
has already happened. So okay.
So the place got robbed.
And then in January 2021, 1 year
when
I got a message in a group chat with my friends.
They didn't get away with it.
Really
oh, really?
Yeah, so they had the dudes in the back of the cop car, and she had to point out who they were, and they're like, "We're gonna get you, sir." After she pointed them out.
Oh, man.
I know, I felt bad. I was like, that was supposed to be me, oh my god.
And, well, I couldn't utter the word "what" this time, because it was beyond all comprehension. So
how did they get
I was
caught?
paused. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't,
That'd be
because
pretty
this
dumb.
thing was weighing deeper and deeper on my chest. And in lockdown, there was no other option available to me.
Yeah,
so
I guess they're in like a
walked.
van.
And I walked every day, and I passed this lake.
And they
it
must
became
have been
quite
driving
intriguing to me. It
erratically,
was kind of
probably.
vast and mysterious and imposing, and I went back to it again and again and again.
Yeah.
And one day, I stopped at
She was
this lake.
pointing them all in the face, like,
I looked at it,
you.
and I just thought, okay. And it was an icy English January, so there wasn't really anyone else around.
She was like,
But I still had my teenage fears in the back of my head, so I sort of
I was
glanced
like,
at the
I
bushes,
want
made sure there was no
either,
creepy
right?
stalker lurking, and stripped off my clothes, bra and pants,
Or one
and got
time
in. Oh my god, it was freezing!
came up from, we were on the
Like
run.
1,000 needles stabbing
cold.
every single inch of my body, freezing.
I came up.
But as I sort
We
of
lived in,
gasped for
I
breath
had an
and
apartment in
tried
that
to
place
remember
that
those
down
motions I'd been taught all those years earlier,
by the post office.
I felt something. So I went back the next
These two
morning
dudes from Culture brought us
in a
up.
proper swimsuit
One
this
didn't
time,
have any legs.
and I felt it again.
And this other dude.
And I went back again the next day and the next, and days turned into weeks. And one day I'm in this routine and I'm swimming, and something happened
I
with
can't
that
remember why
same
they fucking
thing,
brought
and
us
it
up,
came
because
up
they
and up
wanted
and
to
up,
try
and
to,
I just started to sob.
like, you know,
And I don't know
theft and
if
shit,
anyone's
whatever.
actually experienced
Anyway,
feeling
so
crying
we
in
walking
their
around
body
this one
before,
place, me and
it's
Robin.
quite hard to stay
Came
afloat.
back to my place, and those guys were sitting there
So I was
waiting.
sort of panicking
You
and
know, just
swam
hang
to the
out.
shore because I
And we
didn't
stashed
want
like
to drown.
400
And I got to the
$80
shore,
we just
and
robbed
I
from this
sat
place.
with my arms around my
I'll break
knees,
it in
and I cried like a baby.
So we left to
I
go
knew in
in
that
another
moment
place right away.
I
And then we
found
were going to take
something
off
in
with these guys
swimming.
back. Right?
And I carried on and I carried on.
Well, when we
and
got
the weather was
back from
getting a
that
bit
second
warmer, and
time,
one day there I am,
fucking
my friends,
dudes
walking to
had
the
like
lake,
ripped apart the
and
room that
there's
we had
this
stacked
woman
and found
in
all
my
that cash we had just
spot.
taken and took it.
And I'm looking
took
at
it.
her thinking,
Oh my
They
God.
took off.
this is my place, this is my space.
So they robbed us.
Chit-chat conversations with
And
other
so
people.
I
just
fucking-
wanna swim. So I got
They
in
had
the
this like
water,
van they
swam
were
as
in.
quickly as possible.
And so I
got out,
called the cops and I
didn't have to speak
put on
to her
like an
whilst we got
English
dressed. She was
accent.
there sort of smiling
And I
at
made
me,
up
all
this story that
kind
these
and
two
nice.
guys in a
Leave
van
me
like
alone.
came to a party
Came
and
back
they
the
robbed
next
us,
morning.
beat up my friend,
There she is again.
and
Smiling.
took our money or took the
And
money.
instead of kind of
And
feeling this childhood jubilation,
'Cause
of
we were
a 5-year-old,
pissed.
I just felt
boy, well, these
like a
motherfuckers
5-year-old.
then. So
This is my space.
I mean,
Why are
Um,
you invading it?
they did get pulled
And
over
every
finally in
morning
the
that
right
week, same time,
There was a,
same place, there she is.
APB.
Yeah,
And I started
and they
to
got
just
questioned and
feel
denied
trapped.
everything.
Anyway,
Obviously,
one
you know,
morning we swim, we're out, same
that
time,
never
getting
happened.
dressed as usual.
But they
And
got
she offered me
like these
That's
traffic
nice, isn't it?
tickets. That
homemade.
they're like, well, if you pay these traffic tickets, we'll let you
Obviously, I
go.
thought to myself,
So they had to
"Oh,
spend the
okay."
money on their traffic
I
tickets
sort of
just to
gritted my
get.
teeth preparing for this
all of
polite
the hassle.
conversation. whether
So they
I
didn't
really
make
didn't
out
want
of
that.
shit.
But
We found that out. We're like,
weirdly,
fuck, that's what you get,
she
motherfuckers.
didn't
Right?
seem to want to talk to me. She didn't seem to want to disturb me.
When we got back down there,
and we just
and
sat
we ended
and
up
ate the cake
getting back down
in
there,
peace and went home. And I
went to that
kind
guy's house, and our
began
one friend
to
Jamie,
grow
this
quite accustomed
dude that
to her
was
presence.
smoking crack
It
with
felt really
fucking.
nice. We didn't bother
It's like,
each
well,
other.
we'll
We
get
were
those
both just there,
motherfuckers. So we went
doing
over,
nothing
fucking, we just
separate, you know,
trashed
but
that dude's van.
together. And then
Like bad,
one
fucked it up,
morning,
smashed the
I came up to the
windows,
lake
cut shit,
and
just
she
fucked it up.
wasn't there.
Oh,
And the next morning, she wasn't there again. And I looked for her. And I looked for her every morning that week, but she didn't come back.
Oh, 20.
They, we would you know, we were
In
gonna,
my chest again, coming up.
you know,
as I
divvy up with those
wondered
guys. I don't know
what was
what they were
happening to her. I
thinking.
didn't even know her name.
You know, it's not like we were.
And
Back
Leaving
then, that
my
was a
rent.
lot
she
of
didn't come
money.
back, so I did the
Fuck
only
yeah.
thing I knew how to
It
do.
was like
I kept swimming.
1989,
One day, I
maybe
walk up to the lake
88.
and she's back. So I'm smiling at
That
her
was
first
like
this time,
that.
probably like a weirdo because I was so happy to see her. And the next morning, probably like
Yeah.
everyone here, I'd got into baking during lockdown and I brought her a slice of banana bread. And we shared that by the edge of the lake together. And she told me that she had buried her husband and described the socially distanced funeral broadcast over Zoom and the goodbye that she hadn't said. And it was the strangest feeling because I was listening to her and she's 40 years older than me and she's German and I've tried with all my might not to like her, but we so
You can handle
intrinsically
it in the
understood
city
each
these
other.
days, man.
And I spoke to her about my uncle and about Simon, and she didn't ask how he did it or was he depressed or any of those questions that
Probably
I've
depends on the city.
become really resistant to hearing.
Or what
She
you're
just
doing there, I
listened
guess.
Yeah.
without need for any explanation. And I realised we've both come filled with sadness to this lake. And spring turns into summer and we keep swimming. And now we're not just in the fair weather sort of territory, we've got other swimmers coming in. So we're into our weird
So expensive too.
gang of
Whatever.
misfits. And we slowly all swim together. We have a WhatsApp group and you message in it and see when you want to go for a swim. There's always someone to swim with. And I began to realise actually we're all in this sort of strange place of coming to the water because we're looking for some form of connection. Now, I left that house, which was in Oxford, and that lake. I moved to London last summer, and I don't swim every day anymore. I think I don't need it in that same visceral way, but every time I'm back in the water, I still feel that childhood excitement, and I feel that first icy dip, and I feel that
Thanks.
sacred ritual
Live's
of the
birthday.
time when I swam every morning because it kept me here.
Today or
And I
something.
especially feel the healing that I found in the kindness of a stranger.
I've went to her last 2 big times. Oh wait, maybe not our last one, never mind. I take it back. It was like a few years back when I went to a big party that now stop that sweet at
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Catherine Joy White, everyone. It's so funny. I met everyone yesterday for the first time, and I think I didn't write Catherine's full name down on my card because I was like, oh, I just know her.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
Jojo
Catherine
and
also
Jay
has a
tried to
film
go
out
party, and I was
based around
so
this story,
wiped
and
out
it's in
tired.
festivals, and it's storming and winning
It was
awards.
hard.
So you should definitely check
It
that
wasn't
out.
even. It was like I was getting too drunk
Just
too
smashing
fast
it.
because I was so tired. You know what I mean? It was like I'm tired, drunk.
Sitting around with your eyes shut all the time.
Yeah, like yeah, like that.
Gender equality expert
Smoking
and
too much
CEO
weed,
of
too.
Kusini Productions. She's the author of This Thread of Gold, Celebration of Black Womanhood, and the book Rebel Takes on the Future of Food. You can find out more about Catherine and her film,
Yeah, I get like that
mentioned,
when I smoke
as
too
well
much
as
all the
info
time.
about all the storytellers you've heard this
I
hour
wish I
on our
would
website,
I
themoth.org.
just can't keep my eyes
Well, that's
open.
not the same to say,
Sometimes
really.
when I'm not.
Now we've heard all our stories.
You
like
Thank
that
you to
a
you, the
lot.
audience. Because
It used to be a lot more like
storytelling
that a lot
literally
more.
can't happen without
But you still get to
words.
do that sometimes.
So thank you to
Like,
you
just go to
guys.
fucking
Otherwise, we're
bed
just one
already.
person in a room telling a sad, lonely tale to ourselves. So give yourselves a round of applause.
I hated that being in school, trying so hard, just all day to stay awake.
Sharing stories has
Oh my
important
God.
uses. It's how we connect. It's how we
Remember
find
that?
our humanity. It's how we reach out to each
Yeah.
other, find understanding, empathy,
Especially high
learn,
school,
get new
staying
up
ideas.
all
night.
So,
I used to
this
sit
is the
there
first
and
ever
like
month I've hosted, and I hope it's not the last. But I've absolutely
Like,
loved this
sleep.
evening. So
Wow.
thank you. I've been TIFF students, and I hope you've enjoyed me as well.
pretend you're reading a book
And,
every once in a while.
and we're
turn
going to give it
page.
up. I'm going to give it up for storytelling in all its forms. It's
Yes,
fantastic.
or be like this,
Yeah.
or like this.
Yup.
As Tiff mentioned, this was her first time
That was
hosting
hard
one,
when you have
but
like
what she
in
didn't
school
say is that she's
suspension.
an internationally acclaimed
'Cause I used to
actor,
get those.
comedian,
In the
and writer.
fucking principal's
Her
office.
credits are far too many to mention.
I was
but
lucky
you can
mine-
find out
he
more
was
about
hardly
her
ever in
on
there. It was-
Instagram at Tiff
So it was like
Stevenson
you were in there
and on our website,
yourself, or
themoth.org.
maybe with one
And
other
if you happen to
person.
have a story you're itching to tell, why not pitch us? On our website, look for Tell a Story, and you'll
At
find
the
all the
principal's office,
information you
yes,
need to
I
leave
do.
us a 2-minute pitch.
Right in his office.
There's a room by the gym that was dedicated to just
Really?
that. Yeah,
What you fucking said in the principal's office, man.
it was like a hallway with doors. That's what it was like because it was like this,
Mhm.
and there's like 2 rows of desks.
Not a celebrity impersonator, but that my real self. Thomas
You'd have to go down to the lunch cafeteria and like get your tray and then bring it back to the
I kind
office.
of surrounded myself with real attention drawing
Sitting there.
but kind of nonchalant and much like a real.
But you got to hear all the,
And then we stayed
conversations, it was kind of neat in a way. Because the secretary's front desk office was like right in front of the principal's office, So
Yeah.
she was out there and she was this hot old lady.
To create a bit of a friendly.
But there'd be all kinds of activity always, in and out,
That day
people
I
come and
literally
go,
signed hundreds of autographs.
whatever.
Took almost as many pictures. Grown women were ending either
I
children.
suppose that was when they were smoking at the teacher's lounge.
Yeah.
So security called on about 10 minutes later, and we thought we were going to get kicked out of the mall. When security and local police showed up. They said to us, "For your own protection, we need to provide you all with a
Walk, I
private
think.
security escort."
My aunt was telling me that the fucking teachers would smoke right in the classrooms back when they were kids.
Some of the most popular
Oh, I'll
stores
bet.
in the mall. And this aesthetic that the security was creating just really made it go overboard.
Did you ever see that
So
Saturday
we
Night
ended up
skit?
shooting a video. We
Saturday
took the
Night
video
Live
from my
skit.
phone, we put it on the
With,
internet. And 4 days later,
the
the
lung
video had a
disease,
million views,
and they're smoking in the
something like
doctor's office
10,000
and everything.
tweets about Thomas
I
Elliott.
don't think so.
The social experiment really starts to-
And they're just like heavy smoking, like the doctor has a cigarette in his mouth. In his mouth, there's an ashtray there for the patient, and the nurse is smoking, everybody's smoking, and it's just cloudy.
Remember, you can pitch us at
He's like, you got that lung disease.
877-799-MOTH.
I don't know what's causing it.
877-799-MOTH.
Something like that. It's pretty
Or
funny.
online at themoth.org, where you can also share the stories you heard in this hour or others from the Moth Archive.
Guys, there's episodes of Saturday Night Live. You fall asleep watching it. Can't stay
That's
awake
it for this
anymore. And
episode.
it's like,
We hope
just
you'll
sit
join
there
us
and
again
laugh
next time.
my ass off. You know, and that's what I would do at houses. I'd be like, when I'd be listening to the TV still, and I'd start laughing just hard by myself. And I look around like wake up a little bit
This
or whatever.
episode of the Moth Radio Hour was
Very
produced by
good
me,
bed.
Jay Allison, and Meg Bowles, who also hosted and directed the stories in the show. Co-producer is Vicki Merrick, associate producer Emily Couch. The rest of the Moss leadership team includes Sarah Haberman, Christina Norman, Sarah Austin Jeunesse, Jennifer Hickson, Kate Tellers, Marina Kluche, Leanne Gully, Suzanne Rust, Sarah Jane Johnson, and Aldi Casa.
Golly!
Special thanks, by the way, to the taxi driver who found our host Tiff Stevenson's phone in the back of his cab and, like a hero, returned it to her just before showtime. Moth stories are true, as remembered and affirmed by the
7 o'clock
storytellers.
baby.
Our theme music is by The Drift. Other music in this hour from Rhiannon Giddens, Charles Bertu, and Melina Poxinos.
Fuck,
We
they
received
just
funding
flew by us
from
up at
the
fucking
National
like
Endowment for the Arts.
7:30,
The
man.
Moth Radio Hour is produced by Atlantic Public Media
And
Woods
also when
Hole,
it started raining, I
Massachusetts,
laid back
and
down.
presented by PRX. For more about our podcast, for information on pitching us your own story, and everything else, go to our website, themoth.org.
Whether your weekend is full of work or play, recharging or catching up, life doesn't stop. And the news and the stories that impact your life every day, they don't slow down. All Things Considered is here every Saturday at 7 to bring you the news and help you lighten up with the latest in music, movies, and books. Join us for thoughtful conversations and reporting that keeps you in the know and your weekend goals.
Sunday afternoon at 4 on Wisconsin Public Radio.
.9 WUWS, Ashland. This is WPR News. See, Chicago, it's This American Life. I'm David Kestenbaum, sitting in for Harvey. And I'm just going to let my first
Should I
two
do
guests
this
today
video?
introduce Gary Powell,
Throw it in the fire, in the fire bucket.
Director of motion films. Name a couple of movies.
Fire.
Ooh, Titanic, James Bond, Mission Impossible. Okay, Miles, your turn.
I don't have a job.
You can say your name though.
Miles.
Miles is 7. Well, almost 7. And we arranged for him to talk to Gary because he had some urgent questions about car chases and movies. And Gary, that's his particular set of skills. I drove the crane in Terminator, the bus in Harry Potter.
Wait, you drove the bus in Harry Potter?
I did. A little background. Miles loves cars. His mom says that before he could read, he could tell you make and model and sometimes year of any of their friends' cars. He draws cars, makes cars out of Legos. He brought one with him actually. And he and Gary quickly got him into the shop.
I do car chases with my 7 and 8 cars.
Right.